Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to our Meet the Candidates. We have a wonderful slate of 6 candidates for vestry and 2 candidates for senior warden. And the plan this morning, since we know that there's another church service that's going to take place at 11:15, is I'm going to let each one of them introduce themselves, and they are going to answer a question, and that is, what prompted you to say yes when you were asked to run for vestry or for senior warden? And then if we have time at the end, you all will be able to ask a question. And so you might be thinking if you've got a burning question for any of the candidates, okay? So without further ado, I will introduce, well, maybe I'm not supposed to introduce them, they'll introduce themselves. So.
Hello, I'm Carol Newcomb-Maludo. I've been going to this church since about the year 2000. We were married here, my husband and I, by Father Art. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember Father Art in the year 2000. I'm really concerned about our society today, and as such, I believe St. John's and St. John's mission to bring peace and love to the world is really important. I'm very in awe of God's creation. I love nature, wildlife, the involvement in, very involved right now in basically taking whatever we use and recycling it. I do believe the last few months I've been thinking seriously about the next phase of my life. And I think I need to focus more on faith in St. John's. I bring skills in marketing and finance. I think that our mission here, especially in today's stressful world, is to bring peace and love to everyone around us. And we are the common good church of this area. So I will work towards that mission with God's help. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Dana Whitley, and I agree with everything that was just said. So I'll introduce myself. Professionally, I'm an editor and a communications professional. I've been a nonprofit professional for 17 years, so I'm very familiar with nonprofit organizations and boards and committees and budgets. I've been at St. John's for 2 years after having lived in DC for 17 years. And here at St. John's, I sing in the choir, and I'd like to serve the community, the common good in our community, and be a good steward for St. John's future. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Trudy Snedeker, and on a lovely spring morning in 2018, my husband and I walked through those front doors for the first time. We were greeted by Father Philip and Jackie Browning. They gave us the most warm welcome we could have had. From that, we came in and we enjoyed the service, and from that time on, we felt that we had found our new church home. Unfortunately, a year later, on an equally beautiful spring Maundy Thursday, my husband died suddenly and unexpectedly. Father Stephen Applegate was the interim priest in charge at St. John's at that time. And if it wasn't for him and the love and support that I got from this congregation, I don't know how I would have gotten through that time. Fast forward to late last year, and a lovely woman from this congregation called me and said that my name had been placed in nomination for vestry, and would I consider to serve. Now, being on vestry was the furthest thing from my mind because I felt there were impediments to my being allowed to serve. But she assured me that those concerns were no longer valid at St. John's. So because of all of the love and the kindness and the support that I got from this congregation over the last 5 years, I believe I have a duty and a love to serve this church with every fiber of my being. I have always believed that Jesus Christ is my rock and my salvation, and so is this church. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Susan Mancini. And first, let me say I feel very honored to have been asked to run and humbled around the other very capable candidates for vestry. The decision to run did not come easily nor quickly for me. I served once before on the vestry at St. John's, and that was at the St. John's was suffering the consequences of the recession when all the tech stocks went down, and St. John's was heavily invested in tech stocks. And so I felt the first 2 years of my serving, I was learning and more than I was contributing. But by the third year, I think I kind of caught up. So maybe it's a selfish reason for wanting to run for vestry, and that is to give back and to learn more about St. John's. My primary reason for agreeing to serve is that for various reasons, caring for my husband, various surgeries, COVID, and so on, I have not been able to do much at St. John's. And so by now, I am able to take on more responsibilities, and so would feel that I have the time to serve. I have rejoined the choir, and I'm participating in the craft ministry and the Facing Loss group. I have been a member of St. John's since we moved to Worthington in 1972. I taught Sunday school both here and at St. Mark's in Upper Arlington, my previous parish. I have served on 2 discernment committees, was chair of the Adult Education Committee and of the Hospitality Committee. I have baked dozens of cookies for receptions and funerals here at St. John's. And I've served as a conversation partner to several Turkish women for several years. So the 4 or 5 years of inactivity in the past, just the past 4 or 5 years have been weighing on me. Another reason that inspired me to run for vestry is I'm saddened by the hostility and lack of civility in our society. And I would like to see some kind of study, either in the adult forum or a series of on ethics and ethical behavior. And I feel as Christians that we can help tame this tendency of excess anger by working on our understanding of each other, then extend the scope to those of other ethnicities, cultures, language, identities, and maybe finally those of other political parties. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Laura Wallace. You may recognize me as the mother of 2 spirited young ones, one of which is in the window over here. So I just will start by reading what I wrote, so you probably have seen this. So my family and I started attending here in August of 22. We were attending another church in the area, and the last few years have allowed us to have some space to figure out what fits our family and our beliefs a little better. I grew up in an Episcopalian church in Fairport, New York. That's where I spent my childhood. We would even go to church on vacation. My dad loved visiting all sorts of different churches wherever we were. So when we began our church search for a new home for us, the Episcopal Church was a logical choice. We visited a couple different churches, and we had the terrible problem of they were all great. And so we landed here. We said, let's give St. John's our full effort and see how it goes. And we've loved it. We've loved fitting in here. My children have never felt, no one here has ever made me feel like my children are a burden, especially when they're loud. I've never seen any dirty looks, so if you do them, they're behind my back. So what I have here is I hope by serving on the vestry, I can continue to make St. John's a welcoming place for families. My vision for St. John's is how can I help bring others into this same sense of community and deepen their relationships with each other and with Christ. I'll take my Pokemon book.
morning, everyone. My name is Keith Redmill, and my wife Melissa and I came to St. John's about 23 years ago in 2001. Most of you know I'm a singer, thus these silly little things we wear, penguin suits that we wear, and occasionally play a little piano for the Celtic service and elsewhere when needed. I also lead and coordinate the lay readers and the Eucharistic ministers who serve and help the priests during worship. I currently am the worship committee chair, and I work with Vacation Bible School. And in the past, I have worked with the youth program, taught youth confirmation classes, and co-directed the Children's and Youth Choir also with my wife, Melissa. In my professional life, I am a faculty member at OSU in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. As to why I said yes to running for vestry, I was on the vestry not long after I came to St. John's, and it was a wonderful way to learn about and share just a little bit of a leadership role in the vast number of things that happen in this church. And I wanted to say that so many of those things that go on are behind the scenes and behind closed doors. You don't see them, but they make all of our wonderful ministries and our wonderful worship possible. Since that first term on vestry, I've been asked a few more times, and I've always found a way to be too busy to run again. This time, for whatever reason, I have some ideas, but I'm not sure. It felt like a good time to say yes. Perhaps just felt like time to give a little more back to the church. Perhaps I was feeling really good about the fact that we have two wonderful new ministers who have settled in and new staff who have settled in. We have the promise of a new bishop, and it just feels like a time for moving forward and growing and expanding our life here. So, I don't know. I don't really have any great plans for the church. If elected, I will try to use the gifts God has given me to help however I can. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Star Blackford. I have been here at St. John's for about 20 years, which still shocks me. My first of 3 vestry terms was in the late aughts of the 2000s. And I remember in my vestry speech, I kind of opened it up by saying, one thing we really have to do is talk about money. And after this, a woman named Ellen Hitch, who some of you may know, came up to me and said, people were like, who is that? So I'm here again, and I'm going to tell you again that we need to talk about money. I did not say yes to being senior warden, as much as I said yes to the very specific work that I see laying ahead of the vestry in the next 2 years. And that work really revolves around stewardship. Back when I was on that first vestry term was around the time we paid off the mortgage, and we thought that was going to be a panacea, and it wasn't. My second term on vestry, we had to make some very, very difficult personnel cuts, and we thought that was going to fix things up, and it didn't. And today, we are still building our annual budgets on endowments and investments, and some of those have been exhausted, and more of those are in line to be exhausted. So if we don't take a hard look at innovating our platforms and our methods for giving, we are going to continue to spin in this cycle until we no longer have investments and endowments to rely on. And that is a very, very scary place to be, and it's something that we have to start to talk about. Now, the other broader picture of stewardship is time, talent, and treasure. This is part 2 of what I see our work being. We have this incredibly outdated committee structure that also goes back to my first 2 terms on vestry that no longer allows us to maximize the actual time and talent that our parishioners have to give us. So the goals that I see before us in terms of broad stewardship are aligning both our finances and our resources of time and talent with this new mission statement that we just spent so much time putting together: to grow, love, and serve with Christ's wisdom, love. I always want to say joy. It's joy. I always want to say grace. grow, heal, and serve with God's wisdom, love, and joy. If we can pull that whole picture together, this congregation is going to be much better positioned to be around for another 20 years without the same cycle of problems. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Bob Shelley. My wife and I came to St. John's because our son told us to. He was a classmate of Philip's at General Theological Seminary in New York. So when he heard we were moving to Columbus, he said, you have to go at least once. And then he said, you have to go again. And we did so. We changed our membership to St. John's, I think about 10 years ago. I don't remember exactly. But one of the things that I am particularly interested in is the fact that this parish has been here as long as there has been in Ohio. 220 years is an amazing legacy to hand off to us, and we need to be mindful of the necessity in our situation of spreading Christ's word in this community. I've been struck by Star's emphasis on stewardship because that's my message as well. But I see stewardship as more than simply what goes in the offering plate on Sunday morning. It includes a broad focus on what our resources are, financial and social, and the skills that we have in trying to spread the word of Christ. There's a faith witness. There's a ministry to people in need in the community. I think that the sign-up sheets out in the atrium are a good indicator of how we see our relationships with the community. We're asked to support the food pantry. We're asked to support various other ministries, the street church, and in the garden to serve downtown and help the parishes that are situated there meet the need for services to their communities. We also need to be good stewards of our facility. We've just finished this replastering of the ceiling in this room, and we're hopeful that we don't have to do it again in any time soon. It is an expensive proposition, but we need to be alert to the fact that there are a number of needs with the facilities beyond simply that plaster job up on the ceiling. We have a blueprint for how we're supposed to respond to all of these needs. It's in the baptismal covenant and the catechism. Now, I have not typically read the catechism with much interest, but I dug it out this morning. It is really a blueprint for how we should proceed in our effort to spread the word. Thank you.
Before we go farther, could we thank all of our wonderful candidates, please? And now I'm going to open it up to you all. If you have a question for a specific person, or you have a question for the vestry candidates, or a question for the senior warden candidates, feel free to raise your hand. And I think rather than make everybody stand up, I might try passing the mic to different people to respond. You know, someone has to be brave enough to ask a question. Greg?
I'll deal with the experience issue first and then talk about future. I first became invested in working on stewardship when I was a member of the parish in Athens at Good Shepherd, and over 30 years ago was co-chair of the stewardship campaign. We had great success that year. Our per capita money raise was better than a lot of other parishes, including the colonial parish in New England that my son was then serving. Subsequently, I have been involved in a number of annual campaigns, and then just recently participated while Ann and I were in Ashland, Ohio, with a capital campaign that was operated in conjunction with the Diocese of Ohio that had parishes participating with the promise that they would receive a large fraction of the money raised from the parish. That was successful. We were able to accomplish a great deal. This is a small parish. A good Sunday is 30 people on a Sunday. And they have been able, over the years, to keep their doors open, repair the building, and maintain a part-time priest relationship with a clergy person. It's been a good experience. In terms of what we need to do here, I think there are a number of things. One of them is a well-designed campaign when pointing out the need that we have for annual expense. We're talking about a new organ. Organs are not cheap. They are routinely expensive propositions to install and to maintain. So we need to be very careful about how we make a decision with respect to the organ and the other aspects of maintaining the facility. Thank you.
So, I am a marketing person. I am not a financial strategist. That said, in my marketing and communications roles with several nonprofit clients over the years, one of the first things that I can tell you is that what I've been seeing across the board is that traditional pledge campaigns are flat or taking in less money. That model simply isn't resonating with the new generation of givers. What is resonating with them is platforms like GoFundMe. What is resonating with them are gifts to specific causes or things. So, my personal opinion in terms of what does St. John's need to do, we need to sit down and rip up the traditional model and not necessarily go to annual campaigns, capital campaigns, but look more at you're invested in the music program, you can put money in the music bucket. You're invested in children and youth, you can put money in that bucket. What exactly does this look like? That's what I trust our finance committee to be. The senior warden's job is not to do it all and to come up with the ideas. It's to trust the teams and the committees that are in place in these specific areas to do that. But what I do think we have to do is we have to get younger. We need to innovate in terms of platforms. I've talked about GoFundMe, there are other similar ones, and methods, which is, are we looking at allowing people to give to individual causes, and how do we do that? Do we consider moving our annual campaign or something similar to that to a different time of year? When you think about it, doing this at the end of the year it's when most people have already incurred all of those unexpected expenses. The dog had to have surgery. We had an unexpected trip to see a sick family member. So we're asking people to pledge late in the year when they're already like, wow, this year's budget did not work out. So do we want to look at, examine that? And the final piece that I think is so important is education. We need to change examine, and then change how we talk about stewardship. Because stewardship particularly in this parish, and I'm sure in others, too often is a dirty or scary word. And we have to find a way to take the sting out of that. We have to find a way to help people understand that stewardship and shakedown aren't equivalents. My giving journey when I was 18 years old, my grandfather was a deacon. I turned 18. He told me, Star, you're 18. Two things are going to happen now. You're going to vote and you're going to start pledging. My very first pledge was $2 a week. It was $100 a year. That was what I could give at that time. But we need to educate people about the fact that when we say stewardship, we're not saying, give me everything you have. We're talking about how do you return to Christ the gifts that have been given to you. Thank you.
Yes, Tricia.
Hi, I'm Dana Whitley. I've been here 2 years, and I would recommend a new website. I know there is a committee working on the website, but it is urgent, and I think it's taking too long. We really need to get that moving forward. And I do think that the weekly newsletter can be improved to be more clear and easy to read on your digital device. That's the only ideas I have at the moment, but I will continue thinking.
Hi. Coming from the previous church where my husband and I were, we were very involved in leading small groups, which were our weekly Bible studies. We were also part of coaching small group leaders, and so that was meeting with the people leading those small groups and helping encourage them and build up their resources to make sure they were educating people well. We've also led a couple trips cross-culturally to Egypt to kind of make it less scary for folks. I also was briefly on staff with this other church. We were at Vineyard Columbus. I was working with the marriage and family pastor as his intake coordinator. So I have experience with that as well. I don't have any specific ideas coming into this, but I'm excited to serve if elected.
I have to say, I forgot to ask Gia what time she needs us all to be out of here. We could maybe take one more question if somebody had one. All right. I would say we've got an amazing array of candidates, and it's going to take a lot of prayer and discernment to figure out who to vote for. So I want to thank again all of our candidates for their willingness to serve. So. And voting will take place before and after all three services next Sunday. That's the 9 a.m., the 11:15, and the Celtic service next Sunday, and also before and after each service on the 18th. And if you are a person who is going to need an absentee ballot, or you know of someone who needs one, please have them call the church office so we can get that mailed to you as soon as possible. Thank you all. Thank you all.